As Fresno comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
Here's Warner. Here comes a headed jam. Counted for two. Field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved. What a game. What's this? Smack.
To the left. Is gone!
Perez, that's my play. Off the backboard, counted, and a win!
And a win! Brian Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors, and they go nuts!
And a very pleasant good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Talkin Sports here on Real Sports Live. From Fruia Motors in Brownsville, Texas, I'm Joe Bowling with you as we are a week and 3 days away from our 2023 basketball showcase, which takes place in Edinburgh, Texas. We've been busy for the last couple of weeks getting everything together. The last 48 hours have been a drain on everyone involved in us trying to get everything together. Rosters were released earlier, dealing with coaches, trying to get the publication set up, and it's been a busy couple of weeks for certain, a busy 48 hours to say the least. And as we get ramped up, it'll be busier even leading up to the eventual games. Thanks for everyone that's been a part of what we've done so far with our showcase. Kevin Naro will be joining me here just a little bit. He is coming back from the Kingsville area where he was broadcasting games last night, and he worked an overnight, as did I, as did Mark Molina, working overnight to get everything set up for you for the showcase. And so once he gets here, he'll probably look like I do, and that looks like a couple of guys that have been up for about 24 hours trying to make sure that the programs get set up. I want to talk a little bit about numbers on our showcase because, again, the first thing, anytime you put a list together at any level of sports, generally you open yourself up to people being able to look at that, isolate individuals, isolate groups, and really start to dissect any list with questions as to, why this, why not this. And, so let me put it into perspective a little bit here on some sheer numbers on our Real Sports Live showcase. The first thing that you look at is the number of coaches that are involved when we send out a request for coaches to send out a recommendation on players that they would like to participate in our showcase. That is coupled with what we do as broadcasters on our broadcast, in which we take notes and we compile a list of players that stood out during our broadcast, which is a big part of the criteria about who participates in our showcase. So when you compile all of the numbers of players that caught our eye, and that's Rudy, that was Ruben when he was with us, that's Kevin, that's our announcers like Jacob, Jay, any of our announcers who had a couple of players or a player or two here in this game and a player in this game, player in this tournament that stood out to the level of, hey, we would like them to be in the showcase. Well, then you start to get that big list together of who you want to be in the showcase. And then you send out the request to the coaches saying, hey, who would you like to participate in our showcase if spots are allowed? Well, if you took just our list and put it aside for right now, but only received the coaches' invitations, first and foremost, 45 players is the maximum number of players that are going to be on the three teams for the RGV rosters on the boys or the girls side. So you're limited to 45 players there. If every coach in the Rio Grande Valley of teams that we broadcast at least a couple of games for this basketball season submitted one name, we wouldn't be able to get all of those players in our showcase. There's too many. There's more than 45. Now, these coaches were submitting 3 and at times 4, which takes the number to well over 100, near 150 players on the coaches' side that came in to Rio Sports Live to sort out on an invitation basis on how do we compile a list of players. Now, bear in mind, our list is over here on the side of the players that stood out to us during our broadcast. And so then you have to hone it down and come up with players that are invited to our showcase and then sign up to our showcase. Invitations are sent out with a link to sign up. Do they sign up? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the bottom line is over 100 players that coaches wanted to come in, that we wanted to play. Over 100 players are not going to be in our showcase. In order to do that, we would have to make our showcase a 20-team event. And we're just not in position to do that. We're trying to isolate it down and keep it with a showcase level in which it's letting the fans see some of the players play that maybe they didn't get to see during the year, maybe they didn't get to see live, maybe they didn't get to see on our broadcast, or they did catch them on our broadcast, but they want to see them when they're in competition with other players. So again, the honing down of that on a sheer numbers basis is quite a process. And normally when we're putting our showcase together, you're looking at exactly what happened this year, and that is about the time we start compiling our list. The RGV Vipers are also putting their showcase together, which we assisted them in getting their showcase together, which was a terrific success again this past year. That's 2 teams on the boys, 2 teams on the girls, which is even less players than what's in the Rio Sports Live. But still you have to get those players in. And at the same time, all of the coaches and all of the districts are meeting and compiling their all-district, all-region, all-area teams. And so you get these monster list of players that sometimes when you have a first team, second team, third team, honorable mention, all offensive, all defensive teams, defensive players, offensive players of the year, MVPs, newcomers of the year. Everyone receives awards, and it compiles another monster list of players in which to choose from. And so about the time that we're honing it down, getting it down to the final few players that we have to either move aside off of our list or put on our list, then these lists come out in which everyone's excited. It's posted on social media. We do a good job of getting it out there and saying who made all of these teams, and the postseason accolades come out. But it adds extra pressure because now more parents, more coaches are looking at their players saying they're more deserving to be in a showcase because of the fact that they made an elite team in the postseason. And I don't want to take away anything from postseason accolades. That's one of the things that is a media personality. You do. You get into preseason hype. You get into actual season coverage. You get into postseason coverage. And then it's postseason awards. That is year in, year out, regardless of the sport. That's what we do in the media. So when you see a list and then you notice that there's players on that list that made it, that aren't on your showcase, well, then you start looking at it saying, okay, well, we knew there were players that weren't going to make it. But again, I'm just trying to explain that to you as fans, as coaches, as people that keep track of what we do here on Rio Sports Live, that showcase, which will take place April 14th, 15th, and 16th, will feature players that were broadcast on our platforms on Rio Sports Live. That alone could be the criteria for selecting the teams. However, as was the case last year, as was the case when Brian Pinkerton assisted in doing it the year before, we do take in consideration recommendations from the coaches, and we look at some of those postseason all-district teams, and that all put into a big pot becomes the recipe on how the showcase rosters are listed. We're excited about the players that are on. It's a great group, and they're coming from Dallas. They're coming from El Paso. They're coming from the Coastal Bend and they're coming from the RGV, and they're all going to be in Edinburgh, April 14th, 15th, and 16th. I'll take a break. When I come back, I'll break down that showcase a little bit more, and then, again, Kevin will be joining me. He's on the road, and Rudy Zamaripa Jr. on the camera. We'll be right back with more Talking Sports here at Luke Fruia Motors in Brownsville, Texas, the home of Buick, Cadillac, and GMC in Brownsville, Texas, one of our sponsors here on Real Sports Live. Back with more after this.
Sail the seas or see the sails. On South Padre Island, that's as hard as it gets. Visit sopadre.com.
We are La Feria, and you're watching Real Sports Live. Roll Pride.
Ibanez Tortilleria, serving up freshly made in-house corn and flour tortillas since 1994. Try delicious menudo, tasty barbacoa, fresh tamales, tacos, pareadas with juicy grilled chicken, and tender fajitas. On Mondays, buy one barbacoa taco and get one free if you mention that you're a Bloodhound fan. Located at 4726 Paredes Line Road, Brownsville, Texas. Open every day at 6:30 a.m. till 9 p.m. To order, contact 956-541-9594.
We're La Feria, and you're watching Real Sports.
We're back here at Luke Fruia Motors. You see outside, it's a great day to be at Luke Fruia Motors here in Brownsville, Texas. And slight breeze out there, cool afternoon. There's a chance of rain later on, but the home of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac in Brownsville, Texas, Luke Fruia Motors, one of our sponsors here on Real Sports Live. I'm Joe Bowling with you. And I just got the word from Mark Molina that our programs made it to press. We had the deadline that we had circled. We made it to press. And so the 188-page program will be available to the fans for our basketball showcase coming up on April 14th, 15th, and 16th. And it's a lot of information about the players that are going to be participating in our event, as far as statistics, information about each player, photos, those fans that are looking for the schedule of events. It'll all be in our program, which will be available on game day. Our event takes place again on April 14th, 15th, and 16th, and it's in conjunction with the RGV Vipers. Looking at day one at the arena, the Vipers this week are busy trying to win a championship for the G League, and so they've got all of their energies spent there trying to capture another G League title. They got a game on Thursday. Want to remind fans to, if you haven't got tickets, I bet that place is going to be sold out. But the RG Vipers in town. It's a best 2 out of 3 series, and that'll be game 2 of the series, played on Thursday. And they lost that first one, so they'll be looking to stay alive. If they win, they can force a game 3. If they lose, well, then that's it. We won't talk about losing, though. The RGV Vipers, I covered them when they won their first championship. And, they won a championship other times and last year as well, trying to repeat. And but they're in an 0-1 hole, and so we do need to fill that place up on Thursday night over at the Vipers facility. But that's where our opening ceremonies will take place. That'll happen next Friday. And we're scheduling that from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, we'll transition into the competition level as far as opening up with a three-point shootout and a slam dunk competition, which should be entertaining. We wanted to get that in last year with the island festivities. Timing and just restrictions didn't allow us to get that in, but we will be having a three-point shootout and the slam dunk competition on Friday the 14th. Again, the opening ceremonies from 5 to 6. And then we transition into the competition level of that. On Saturday, games are all going to be played over at the Vipers practice facilities, which, again, are full NBA courts with shot clocks and we'll be playing games throughout the day into the early afternoon. They should wrap up by 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the evening. And so those fans that are traveling from out of town to come watch the games, there'll be plenty of time to get out and see the city of Edinburgh and check out the RGV before everyone returns on Sunday and goes back to the Vipers facility, which is the arena where the Vipers play their games. And we'll have our final games there. The final 6 games of the competition will all be played there on the arena, on the big floor. Again, the home of the RGV Vipers. And we schedule it with 2 pools of 3. The pools play in competition on Saturday, and then we sort the pools into a first, second, and third place team. And then third versus third, second versus second, first versus first. So there will be no repeat games from day one. I know oftentimes in these travel tournaments you'll see that. You'll see a couple of teams play in the first day, and then they'll turn around and have to play each other again on the second day. We're trying to make it where it's an experience where the players can get to see players from outside the area, get to see and play against players that they may not have played against yet. In many cases on our rosters now, you're going to have players playing against one another from the same team on the high school level, which is a different level of bringing a competitive edge to the teams. And in some cases, we've got brother versus brother in pools. And so it should make for some good competition. I'll get into that a little bit more. I see Tino Villarreal made his way over here, too. We'll talk a little Brownsville St. Joseph. We've got a signing taking place over there as Jerry Martinez will be signing. Again, outdoors. Beautiful day to come down to Brownsville, Texas. We're at Luke Fruia Motors, and we'll be back with more after this.
Our service is unmatched. Our commitment to our team and our community, relentless. Our products are innovative and exciting. Fruia, we're what's next now.
We are West East, and we're watching Real Sports Live. East side, strong side.
When you study local at Texas Southmost College, you can choose from over 50 associate degree programs, certificates, and workforce training programs. Register now for summer and fall classes and study local at Texas Southmost College.
We're La Via, and you're watching Real Sports Live. Go Cardinals!
Hi, I'm Rebecca Castillo. I invite you to visit San Benito and see for yourself the many things this community has to offer. Our offices of economic development offer a variety of business resources to developers, investors, and business owners from small to large scale. Contact us and let us work together on your next business opportunity.
Hello from Los Fresnos CISD, an A-rated Texas Education Agency district. A stands for Academic Excellence at Los Fresnos CISD, where pathways to secondary success are being built for students at the brand new Resaca Middle School campus. A stands for Academic Advancement at Los Fresnos High School, where the College Center provides a jump start on college and career readiness that includes advanced placement classes, dual enrollment options, CTE opportunities, and scholarship money. Los Fresnos CISD, an A-rated and 7-time post-secondary readiness distinction district.
Back here, Luke Fruia Motors in Brownsville, Texas, and we are talking sports here on a Wednesday. I told you I made the trip in here, got here a few minutes before it started. Rudy was the first one to arrive on the scene. He got everything set up. Kevin was behind me by about 30 minutes and makes the trek in from Kingsville. Kevin? As I said, we're going to look like we've been up for a long time the last couple of days.
Yeah, certainly. And today's only Wednesday, and so much had happened, and I looked at my phone, and it wasn't even noon yet.
Yep.
I'm like,
But
Okay.
but success. We got the program in. We've got the rosters in, and I think the fans are going to be entertained, to say the least, on the showcase this year.
No, I think so. Considering that we put out the rosters on Monday, and seeing the finished product. And one thing I learned with the softball showcase was that you know the first step is when we release the invitations. And then, everyone's going to text or call or post, I got invited. Then people start finding out who got invited, who didn't get invited. And then you start to wield those first phase of phone calls. Well, why not this kid? Where's this kid? Where's that kid? And I learned in that showcase was just wait. Give me 2 weeks, 3 weeks until we fire out the finished roster, and then talk to me. And then give me your whys and why nots and where's this person and where's that person. Because once that roster came out, they're like, oh, that's a good roster.
Yep.
That kid's good. That kid's good. That kid's good. And then the one that you and I always go to is argue them off. And you can't. So I think that's where we are now with the basketball showcase is we got a lot of where's this kid and where's that kid. And again, I just saved that bullet to say just wait until you see the rosters, and then you can ask some questions or maybe point out where's this kid and where's that kid. But seeing the finished product with the rosters, how it ended up shaping out, it was a little bit of a letdown that we weren't able to get the TMI kids, the Laredo kids. There was a lot of big names there that we wished we could have had in this showcase. But I still think the teams are stacked. I think there's a lot of talent on there. A couple of coaches were looking at the Rebels on the boys and the girls side, and they're like, man, it's hard to argue any of those kids off of those lists. And I think they were pretty pleased with it. Talking with who's going to be coaching these teams, that was a chore in itself. The coaches were looking at the rosters, and they can't wait to get to work with what the rosters have. And we have a lot of big names returning to our showcase. Greg Yates, he helped us coach last year. He's a longtime coach at Harlingen, La Feria. Rolando Garza from San Isidro, longtime coach there, career 500 wins. He's also back. He's coaching one of our teams. We have Aaron Ramirez, who is a Santa Rosa legend, played for Coach Cipriano. He's going to be one of our coaches. We have Coach Nora Zamaripa. She agreed to come back, and she's going to be coaching one of our girls' teams. So there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of knowledge that are going to be coming from these coaches to these athletes. And I think, they'll get their money's worth, and hopefully they'll learn a thing or two from these coaches. And the program just got finished as late as this morning, late last night, early this morning. And Jammer and I, at about 3 o'clock last night, when we put it, semi to bed, we went through it once, and I think it looks really good. I think it looks really good. Our guy Mark, he worked diligently on that. And we walked into the living room yesterday in Kingsville, and he had a table set up, and he had everything, an office in his living room. But I said we looked through it. Did you look through it?
I have not looked through the finished product.
Okay, I think you're really going to like it. I think it's probably one of the better ones we've had.
Yep.
It's clean. It's got player spotlight pages. It has the rosters in there, which we learned from last year. It's going to have the height, the classification, the school they're at. So there's a lot of information, importantly for the college coaches, that they're going to be able to look up this kid's height and what school they're at, their classification. So there's a lot of really good information in the program.
Yeah, and Kevin, I touched base on it in the opening part of this show that sheer selection is monumental to those who hone in on why not this one player and why this one player. Again, if every coach that we send an invitation to,
right,
to just get recommendations, not guarantees, just give me a recommendation of 3 players. If every coach only sent one, we still wouldn't have been able to put every player they recommended into a 45 team, or 3 teams of 15 for 45. We would have left players off of that. And that's every team submits one player. We still got to leave some off.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about 3, in some cases 4, where coaches ask.
Yeah, no, it's darn near impossible. But with the I feel the way we did it, we cleaned up some things. We stayed in house as far as the decisions were made, and I thought that was a good decision to make. And it's a lot harder than it looks. And again, I go back to the softball one where I learned that we sat, the committee and I sat at the table for 3 hours, checking off names, putting yeses and nos, and they were God's honest truths, yeses and nos. And that's one thing that I think that people fail to understand, that it's not a this isn't for everybody. That's the point of this showcase, is that we want the best of the best competing. And at least I'm not. I know you're not. I'm not in the business of just handing out invitations to just anybody. Everyone who's in this showcase is deserving. They deserve to be there. And I don't think the marquee names like the Janae Colemans, the Ashley Gonzalez of the world should be penalized. Like, nope, you're too good. Let's invite someone else. Let's give someone else a chance. No,
Yeah.
they're the best for a reason, and they're invited for a reason. And I think that's how we've built this model. If you're good enough, you'll be invited, and if you're not, well, you're not. I mean, that's the point. And I spoke to one of the coaches, like when you see the talent coming from up north, you'll see the measuring stick, and you'll see why we want the Valley's best on display next weekend.
Yeah, that's the next thing that we carried over from year one. Again, you go back to year one when Brian Pinkerton said, hey, it's COVID, but I still want to get something down there at the island. And so Brian Pinkerton put together the first showcase that Real Sports Live was a part of. And then last year, of course, but we carried over still this year what we agreed with when we talked to coaches, especially from the RGV coaches, in that if we were going to bring in a full team from outside of the RGV, and in this case a full team from private schools inside and outside of the RGV, then the decision is, once you break it down, okay, again, I talked about it, the number of players that are coming from the RGV, but once you get that number established and then you want to divide them into teams, the decision is, do you do it into three equally dispersed as far as talent goes, and then have three competitive teams that can play with each other? Or do you load one up, quotation marks, with what you think, if it were drafted out by coaches across the board, if it were drafted out by us, then that would be the team that you would say, hey, I want to put them in against anybody as the best we can put together.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do. Again, you put a list together. I guarantee you're going to have someone dissect it.
Sure.
But that's the criteria there. Fans that'll look at it and say, well, look at that team on the RGV. Look at the Rebels. There's a reason why there's more Rebels stacked that you would traditionally see in first team all districts. Players of the game oftentimes on Real Sports Live broadcast. There's a method even to that. But again, the criteria again is, yes, we take the coach's recommendations. Those are recommendations. In many cases, coaches didn't even send anything in. I can clarify that too.
Also, just because you recommended them doesn't mean we're going to take them.
Yes. Yeah.
That's another thing
can.
that,
like I said,
we could if we wanted to, but when it came down to the number crunchings, they send in their top three. We maybe took their top player or their top two, and we left one out. So just because they sent it, because I got a lot of, I sent this name in. It's like, okay, you sent it in, but that doesn't guarantee that we're going to take it.
Right.
So.
Yep. But once we got that together, then again, the criteria going back to, we're a broadcast company that's in the business of broadcasting sporting events. We're out there covering these teams. We're seeing these players. And, if they catch – I'm going to give you one name, Julian Torres. I was able to go to the La Feria tournament this year, and I covered some of the games there. And he completely took over a couple of ball games in which he nearly beat Corpus Christi Miller by himself, nearly beat Santa Truist by himself, and stood out as one of the players that I circled early on this season as, what? Julian Torres just earned a spot on the Real Sports Live Showcase. And that's happened. Rudy has a couple of players that he threw in. It's like, I don't care what you do, but I want to make sure she's on. I don't care what you do. I want to make sure he's on.
Yeah.
And so that was criteria number one. It's like, okay, who really stood out? Now, what does that say as far as the schools that we broadcast for? Well, that opens up a whole nother world in that, it's a well-known fact that many schools open arms would like for us to broadcast as many and in some cases every game that their teams participate in. Others have their own platforms, have their own agenda, and so we get a limited view of players who may not have had a great game in the games we broadcast, and therefore they're not going to stand out in us, even though they're on an all-district list, even though the coach is going to say that's my best player.
Right.
Didn't catch our eye on a broadcast, and so therefore they may not make the list.
Right.
But it's a
Well, that's where the recommendation part comes in.
yes.
And that's where we, as journalists, do our due diligence and look up numbers and look how they did on the all-district list, and we look at the stats they give us, and then we can compare strengths of schedules and go on and so forth. So.
Yep. And again, what I wanted to do this year, the biggest breakout this year compared to last year is the fact that last year we tried to, because we were still trying to make sure we had that representation coming out of Laredo. We wanted to have a full-blown Laredo team coming in, and a Coastal Bend team and RGV teams. The increased coverage and the increased success of private schools this year warranted that, okay, we can make a legitimate all-private school team,
Yes.
boys and girls. And therefore that opened that up. Well, Corey still wanted to bring the Coastal Bend team down, and his quote, day one, and this is back in November, you're going to have the showcase again this year, right? Yes. Good, because I want to win it. and that's been his focus. He's had 3 practices. He's got another one on Saturday. They are practicing not to come down here and have fun, although they will. They're coming to win.
Yeah, no, that's
The private schools will too.
Yeah,
They want to win.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the coaches down here, they're already setting up practice. That's another thing I've been doing all morning is trying to help coaches find gyms and organize. Well, they're going to organize their dates. I'm just trying to help them find gyms because they want to get in a gym as soon as they can, especially with Friday being Good Friday. So a lot of schools aren't going to – the gyms are going to be all closed. So as early as Monday next week, coaches want to start getting in the gym and at least have a week's worth of practice. And, yeah, and everyone's in it to win it. I know last year Nora Zamaripa ran a pretty hard-nosed practice, and some of the girls were like, it's a showcase, coach. It don't matter. She still had them working really hard.
And I guarantee you Evie will be pushing
they all
girls
will.
to win.
They all will. They're all going to. I know Coach Yates on the boys' side, on the Rebel side, they're in it to win it. They're like, we're going to have practices. We want to win. We don't want to go out there and get embarrassed. We don't want to lose. And so there's a pride thing, and that's a good thing. So I'm
Don't
excited.
ever question the competitive edge of an Aaron Ramirez either.
Right.
First-year coach for us. But, I remember him as a player, didn't like to lose. Is not going to want to go out there and not win either. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's talking of the showcase. What do we got coming up this week? We've still got soccer competition. We're going to assist the city of Brownsville and the school district with broadcast there. We've had track. We're going to have track. We're assisting Harlingen with the district track meet on Thursday and Saturday. We just had another successful broadcast of the interscholastic kids with the track meet in Brownsville, so we thank the Brownsville School District for giving us a plaque yesterday. Really told me we got a plaque, which was totally unexpected, and so coverage there. And then, of course, we'll talk softball, and we'll touch base on baseball. That's all coming up. We're at Luke Fruia Motors. We're in Brownsville, Texas, and we'll be back with more after this.
College, career, community ready is more than just a saying. We've created 12 academies to provide students with access to fields of study that best fit their interests and passions. Within the 12 academies, there are 42 certifications that will aid students in getting a head start on a career upon graduation. Become HCISD proud and enroll today.
Talkins, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Graduation time. Time to make some decisions. What's next? Can I afford to continue my education? What are my options? At Brownsville ISD Career and Technical Education, you can graduate from high school with a certificate and/or license ready to go to work. debt-free. We have a wide range of programs for every student, ranging from audiovisual, law enforcement, STEM robotics, electrical, welding, pharmacy, patient care tech, and many more to choose from. That's why Brownsville ISD is the best choice.
We are McAllen Memorial, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
For quality care, contact Mesquite Home Health and Attendant Services today. In Brownsville at 594 Jose Marti Boulevard. Call today, 956-361-5558.
We here at Mesquite want to wish all local athletes good luck in today's game.
We're live from Bulldogs, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Music lovers, you have to stop and see the assortment of records, tapes, and records memorabilia at Forever Memories today. Located at 237 North Sam Houston in San Benito, Texas, there's over 10,000 records on display and more coming every day. Looking for your favorite album from the past, first pressings, collectibles? How about a 45 with a single you just have to have? Freddie Fender, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, Elvis, Beatles, blues, rock, classics, Tejano, it's all here. Organized and priced for you. Forever Memories, 237 North Sam Houston, San Benito. Back here on Real Sports Live, where's the showroom floor, and the cars are on the showroom floor here at Luke Fruia Motors, home of Buick GMC and Cadillac in Brownsville, Texas. Come on by and see what's there. Joe Bowling with Kevin Naro on my side. Well, Kevin, we talked showcase. We could talk that for the next 3 days, the next 3 hours, the next 3 minutes. Let's switch gears. Once again, you got to see one of the premier pitchers, not just in the area, not just in the region, not just in the state, one of the better high school pitchers around.
Yeah, Ava Hernandez. You know, we knew she was something special coming up, and you know, I first got to see her when she was a sophomore, and you know, the rumor was that there was a freshman, you know, that was hitting 61, 62, and then the sophomore, her sophomore year, that she was 63, 64, and it's like, no, like there's no way there's a girl that young throwing that hard, and they were in 4A, like they still are now. They were gonna play Rio Hondo in the bi-district round, and I said, there's no way that there's a sophomore throwing that hard. And Coach Lentz did some scouting, and she said, yeah, she's a true 63, 64. It's like, good grief. So Alice was playing Zapata in a seeding game, and Rio Hondo was there to scout, and they were gonna get the winner of whoever lost. So flips, whatever. And my buddy Brad Esparza had a gun right behind the plate. And we were announcing the game, and I said, tell me if she's really touching 65. So he's sitting there behind the gun, and then just whack, whack. And he texts me, true 65. I was like, wow. So the legends are true. But she's an amazing pitcher. And, you know, to think that her and Andrea Martinez were on the same travel team together, legendary pitcher now from Bishop. And to think that Andrea would come in and start those games and Ava would come in and close them. Like, that's a lot of velo, and that's a lot of spin between those two. And just to think that, you know, how rich the Coastal Bend has been, specifically in the sport of softball. But, you know, last night was a game where, you know, Cal Allen had lost once to Alice in that dramatic Grand Slam, the first time they played in Cal Allen. And it was like a down goes Frazier kind of thing, you know. But Coach Janae Gonzalez, she's so modest, she's so humble that, you know, I'm like, you guys are that good though. Like, you guys are good. And she's like, no, you know, like, she's a very humble person. You know, so they go through the rest of their district. You know, they wipe out everyone they play. Cal Allen, they win out the last 4 games of the first round. Then came yesterday, was the rematch. And, you know, I know coaches aren't going to tell me, but you and I know that game essentially is for the district championship. Because from here on out, I don't see either team losing,
right?
Realistically, right? So, you know, last night was for the district championship. And Ava had an opportunity as a senior, last time she's going to play Cal Allen, possibly on her home field, to not only sweep them, but to be in the driver's seat in that district. And with that comes a lot of added motivation. With that comes a lot of extra emotion in that game, especially for that team yesterday, wanting to prove a point that on our home field, we can take down the mighty Cal Allen. because they read the papers, they see, Cal Allen's been to state, they've been to the region finals, whatever, and Alice is that team that's on the upswing, and I think right now they're playing so well right now, and they're a lot older on paper, and I think that was the difference last night. That was probably maybe what do they call it? A subplot somewhere in the storyline was the youth in there, but the headline was Ava Hernandez. She threw another complete game. She gave up 4 hits and she walked 6, but she struck out 15. And last night was a work of art because Jammer was out in center field with the 2 cameras, and I sat behind home plate with our table and stuff, so I had a front row to what and how she pitched. And she was throwing change-ups for strikes, first pitch strikes constantly all night, and then she'd throw a bullet at the knees for a strike, and then she'd come back with her rise ball, topping at at 65, 67. When she'd really rev back, she can touch 67, and that's really, really impressive, and that's a fact. And just the way she managed that game, she struck out the side multiple times. They had that big 5-run third inning where Mary Grace Cantu hit a 1-out home run, and then Ava Hernandez followed. They went back to back, and that set that place on fire. And from there on out, you just kind of felt that, and I told Coach Lentz last night, I said I felt Alice threw the first punch, and Cal Allen didn't have an answer. A lot of it, was because of their youth. They're still very young. She has 4 freshmen in the starting lineup. So that's not an excuse, and that's not to take away anything from Alice because they are that good, and they're playing that well. But that was just a big statement win for Alice. They're now in the driver's seat, and the way talking to a coach this morning, that the way it usually maps out, if you're from the same district and you're a 1 and a 2 seed, the next time you'll see each other could possibly be in the region final. So a lot needs to happen. We could be looking at another Bishop Santa Gertrudis rematch sometime down the line. I think that would be really good. That'd be really great, in fact. But for Cal Allen, I think they'll be fine. Rihanna Rodella, she didn't have her best game in the circle last night. She's a senior for them, one of the very few seniors, not the only senior in the starting lineup for them. Offensively, they just good pitching beats good hitting any day, right? Yep. And I think that was the case last night. But I think Cal Allen will be fine. They're going to figure it out. At this point in the season, it's just back to the drawing board. The Alice series is over because that's always the biggest one. And now they have Bishop, who just beat TM last week. So Bishop's feeling a little bit better about themselves, and they still got to play TM at TM. And you're talking about, going into hostile territory. Alice doesn't like Cal Allen. Well, TM certainly don't like Cal Allen at all. Yeah. Just think of it as a Battle of the Arroyo when it comes to the hatred between those two programs. But I think they'll be fine. Down here, Rudy got, it was a treat. Mercedes came back and won with that rally in the 7th. And, that was a big, big win for Mercedes to, again, put themselves in the driver's seat. They're 12-1 now in that district. And for Brownsville Lopez, there's got to be some reason for concern. Friday, they lost in extra innings to Brownsville Veterans. That was a huge win for Veterans to be back in the playoff mix. And then they turned around and had to play Mercedes last night at home, and they lost. So now Mercedes and Lopez split. But for Mercedes, the teeth of their schedule, they've gone pretty much through the gauntlet. They still do have to play Westlaco East and Brownsville Veterans, but I feel, barring any kind of freakish whatever, I think they'll be fine. But that district just got so much better last night. So it's ultra competitive. And then Palmview beat Mission Vets last night down in the 35A. Adi Signs pitched an absolute gem. It was a 3-2 game, typical pitcher's duel game. So a lot going on last night.
A lot going on. And in our broadcast, you got to witness one of the rare feats, perhaps one unseen by my eyes, unseen by your eyes, back-to-back.
Oh, yeah.
Double-double. Home runs.
Yeah. Last Friday, Mercedes was at Harlingen South, and not only that, we're never gonna see that again, but in the timing that it was, in the 4th inning, they hit a home run. They're down by a run. Zel Camacho, and then Ashley De Leon just cranks one to left, and then we're tied in the 4th. It's like, whoa. And then Mercedes was down 4-0 early, mind you. And then into the 6th inning, Karime Martinez hit probably, in my opinion, the best home run of the night, a lefty. She went opposite field and sent that one a mile. So then South took the lead, and then in the top of the seventh, Mercedes again went back-to-back with the same players, Zell and Ashley, and then again one to take the lead and one to kind of put the icing on the cake. So, yeah, Zell and Ashley went back-to-back in the fourth, and they went back-to-back again in the seventh. Never, ever have I seen you, Debbie Esparza, Teresa Lenz, Christy Leal, Brett Esparza, Kevin Knipe, every person I've asked that has over 20 years, 30 years of this sport, they've never seen it. And I don't think we'll ever see it again, because just think of the probability of having to go, what are the chances of you going back to back, and then the probability of you doing it again but with the same players.
Yes, and in meaningful parts of
right,
the game.
Right, yeah.
Which you need those.
Right, yeah, and it wasn't like it was in the first inning or it was a blowout or anything. Those 4 home runs were 100% meaningful.
Big stuff there, again, on the softball side. And, softball season will next week – we'll hit it hard early, but then the showcase will take front and center. But bear in mind, there's some competitive softball coming just around the corner.
Yeah.
We're not even near finished covering that.
Right.
Take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. We're at Luke Fruia Motors in Brownsville, Texas, the home of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. What car's Rudy got that camera on there? There you go. There's one of the beauties here on the showroom floor. Back with more after this.
See art or create it. On South Padre Island, that's as hard as it gets. Visit sopadre.com.
My son Leo just graduated from high school, but also with his associate degree from Texas Southmost College at no cost at all. Not having that financial burden was so helpful to our family. That's 2 years we did not have to pay for.
All of my TSC credits transferred to UTRGV, and I am so grateful to go into my major debt-free.
Hija, tomorrow's your quinceañera. I need you to call your padrinos and tell them thank you for the salon, the tamales, the dress, el DJ.
Ay, Ama, you called them. I didn't even want a quinceañera in the first place. I would have preferred to have gone to Paris instead.
I will, fine. I'm gonna give you your surprise gift early.
Huh?
Guess what? You're going to Paris.
How?
Well, I've been saving mucho dinero all year in insurance thanks to Pronto Insurance.
Let's just skip the quinceañera and go straight to Paris.
Call your padrinos right now.
Okay.
Ask your agent how you can start saving with Pronto. Best price in town.
Back here on Rio Sports Live, there's the showroom floor once again at Luke Fruia Motors here in Brownsville, Texas. One of our sponsors here on Rio Sports Live. Buick, GMC, Cadillac, new, used. Showroom floor is full with new cars, and the used car lot has plenty out there as well. Joe Bowling, Kevin Naro, as we're wrapping up this edition of Talkin' Sports here from Luke Fruia Motors. We're going to break it down, Kevin, because we're moving on down the road for another broadcast coming just around the corner, a big signing.
Yeah, Jerry Martinez from Brownsville St. Joe is signing at 3:45, so pretty big deal. Jerry's, he was unsure whether he was going to play or not, and he wound up deciding that it's meant to be for him. So we're happy for him, and he was one of the better players, if not the best player we had this year in basketball, and he's been one of the ever since he came onto the scene as a freshman when he was at Los Fresnos when they played at Villa at the Bird Ogden Arena, and from there on 2,000 career points, 1,000 points as a sophomore. So he certainly had a great career in Los Fresnos and certainly at Brownsville St. Joe his last 2 years. So he'll be signing at 3:45. Are we going Bloodhound channel?
We'll put that on the Bloodhound channel. For those that are watching, it'll be on the Bloodhound channel on RSL apps. So the RSL apps have been in the process of being updated and upgraded, and so everything is operational now, especially on the phone apps. Should be a lot cleaner, a lot easier to get to, a lot easier to navigate through. Roku and Apple TV, we are working through some things on them, but the web page also is just letter perfect, clear sailing when it comes to that. But yeah, we're going to put that signing on the Bloodhound channel, which is streaming 24/7 with Brownsville St. Joseph sports that we've covered here on Real Sports Live.
And then at 6, eventually we'll make my way to Harlingen High School at Ernie. The racers are practicing tonight at 6. So that'll be my final stop.
Paulo Sanchez already wanted to propose a trade. I
Not going to happen.
Coach is trying to trade.
Doesn't work.
But Ernie, he's excited. Last year he took what we called an underdog team and made it to the championship game of our showcase, and he competed in that thing. Right. And so there again, another coach that isn't going out there just to show up. He wants to get these girls ready and wants to win.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 6 o'clock, yep.
Hope you enjoyed our show. Again, tune in for the Jerry Martinez signing. That'll be live on the Bloodhound channel. We'll go on right before the 3:45 signing. For Luke Fruia Motors, who is one of our primary sponsors here on Real Sports Live, we always want to send a shout-out there and send an invitation to you as fans that if you're in the market for a car, obviously make sure you stop by here. Take a look at what they have. Take a look at what they can find. If it's not on the lot, it doesn't mean they don't have it or can't get it. And so at the very least, if you're in the market for a vehicle, come down to Luke Fruia Motors. Let them show you what they can do and put a number on a piece of paper and see if that works for you. If you're looking for a used car, obviously they can assist you there. And nothing else. Come down and tell them thank you for being a sponsor on Real Sports Live that helps us do what we do, and that is cover these athletes across the board. For Kevin Naro, who's tired, I'm Joe Bowling, who's tired. Hope you enjoyed this one. Until next time, so long.
And I've got my plan. I say lob it to Ryan Perez in the paint off a couple of screens. Esquivel to Garcia. Off the deflection. Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
There's Warner. Here comes a headed jam. Counted for two. Field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved.
What a game. Smack to the left. That is gone. Lob for Perez. That's my play. Off the backboard. Count it. And a win. And a win. Ryan Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors, and they go nuts. And why not?